You know my favorite thing in this world is, I know none of you actually care because you're like, just get to the point of this video, is when the microphone is turned off on my recordings. This record is awesome lesson, like top notch, and then the freaking sound wasn't even on. So that's cool. So anyway, take 2 for 7.3 notes. This is using functions involving e. So if you were not here on Tuesday, we introduced this concept of e. And e is not a variable. I know normally when we use letters, we're talking about variables. E is a value, 2.718, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like pi. But the important thing to know is, like, when you're seeing stuff like e to the x power, that's really 2.718 to the x power. So yesterday or on Tuesday, we talked about how to graph these. And remember, when we had a base value to an exponent, that base value was bigger than 1. It was an exponential growth. So when we say e to the x, that's talking about exponential growth. So that's kind of what these notes here were, and this is what we took the other day, or on Tuesday. So e to the x, that's really 2.718 to the x power, and that's growth, exponential growth. E to the negative x, however, well, you can't have negative exponents, so you have to move the negative to the bottom, and that gives you 1 over e, which is really 1 over 2.7 whatever, blah, 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 which if you type in your calculator gives you 0.368 to the x power. Well, if b is between 0 and 1, then that's an exponential decay. So e to the negative x is a decay, so anything e to the negative 3x, that's a decay. If there's a negative in the exponent, that's a decay. E to the positive anything is going to be a growth. So we did these 2 examples here, and in exponentials, because of the decimals and all that stuff, we decided let's just go ahead and just build tables using a calculator. So yesterday I got the document camera out and I showed everybody how to enter in the stuff in the tables. If you were not here, maybe have somebody next to you show you how to enter the equations in a table, and then go from there and maybe copy their notes. I did it on sheets of paper, which I'm 3,000% sure I threw away. So I don't have those for you, but if you need some help when I get back, I can always fill in some gaps. Okay, so that brings us to now the front page, which is actually easier than what we did yesterday. Now that we know what e is, we can use e to either simplify expressions or to actually find out an answer. When it says simplify, like on example 1, the word simplify means that I want one exponent with one base. You can't have any weird stuff going on, no negative exponents, has to be all positive stuff. Nothing with zeros, just a nice cleaned up version, okay? But you don't have to actually give me a full answer, okay? So, like when we're simplifying these, even though e is a number, and if I take e squared, that's a value, you don't actually have to go through and give me that value. That's going to be what example 2 is going to ask us to do. So in example 1, it has e squared times e to the 5th. Well, if you guys remember back to our exponent properties, we keep our base, so e, and we're going to add our exponents if we multiply, right? E squared times e to the 5th is e to the 7th. And that's your answer. Done. You don't have to go any further than that. All you have to do is simplify. Do not evaluate. Do not evaluate. Part B says you got 12e to the 4th over 3e cubed. So 12 over 3, we're going to reduce that part first. Well, 12 over 3, that reduces to 4 over 1. And then e to the 4th over e cubed. Well, your rules for division is to subtract. So we take big minus small, so 4 minus 3. That gives me e to the 1, and that's going to go on the top because that's where the bigger one was. And I'm going to clean that up because I don't like how that looks. It's just 4e. Last example, we have 5e to the negative 3x squared. So when you have a power outside, you have to distribute it in. So that gives me 5 squared. And then e to the negative 3x squared. Well, 5 squared, that's 25. And then this is going to give me e to the negative 6x. Well, I can't have negative exponents. So I have to move this across the fraction bar. So this is going to become 25 over e to the positive 6x. When you move it to the bottom, it gives you that positive answer. So, hope that helps. If it doesn't, I'm very sorry, truly. And I would be more than happy to answer any questions you have. But really on this simplifying part, it's just exponent rules. And you guys know how to use exponents. You know how to simplify them. And I think you should be okay. Always take them one step at a time. When you're talking about steps on simplifying things, always take care of either negatives or zero exponents first. And then do power to a power if you need to. And then do your multiplication and then your division. Okay, to finish out. Those are the kind of the steps I go through when I have multi-step ones. But hopefully that helps. Okay, example 2, it says use a calculator to evaluate the expression. I literally am plugging this into a calculator. Now, I don't have a calculator at my house, so I'm using Desmos, but I can tell you what the keystrokes are going to be in your, for your calculator. Okay? So for e to the 4th power, you're going to hit, remember, e is above the natural log button. So in order to access it, we've got to hit the second button, which is green. So we're going to hit second e to the, natural log, which is the e to the x button. And then what that's going to do is it's going to now pop an e on your screen with a little box up here that's blinking. Blink, blink, blink. And then you're going to type in 4, and then you're going to hit enter. And if you do that, e to the 4th is equal to 598. And 3 decimal places will be sufficient. So that's good enough for me. Okay, part B is e to the negative 9. So what we're going to type in, same thing. Second, natural log, negative 9, hit enter. And when you do that, that gives you 0.000123. I don't need that many decimal places, but if I'm telling you to round to 3 decimal places, you round to 3, you're going to end up with 0. So go ahead and round to 4 just to give you a number, so 0.0001, and that's good enough for me. So you're just typing those in your calculator, second, e to the x, and then whatever you need to enter, and then hit enter. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about is compound interest. Now, we already did compound interest in 7.2 or 7.1. I don't even know anymore. We introduced the a equals p times 1 plus over n to the nt power. And this is if you are compounding something at a certain interval. So compounding it annually, compounding it quarterly, compounding it daily, okay? The difference between this and what we're talking about now is this is continuous compounding, meaning literally every second it is compounding. And if you remember from that that activity we started with, as we increased in, the more times we are compounding it, this 1 plus 1 over n, this thing in the middle here, that becomes e. So what we're doing is we're taking the equation we were using, but we're just like substituting in that middle, and we're going to substitute in e. And instead of nt power on the outside, we're going to take it to the rate power. So we call this PERT because it's P-E-R-T. P is our principal, R is our annual interest, and then T is time. So we're going to do an example using PERT. And the key word when you're trying to decide whether you're using PERT or the other equation is compounded continuously. If it says compounded annually, compounded monthly, annually, monthly, daily, those kinds of things, that's when you're going to use this equation. But if it says continually, that's when you use PERT. So that's the big difference between the two of those. So it says you deposited $4,000 in an account that pays 6% annual interest compounded continuously. So we knew we're using PERT. So PE to the RT power, okay? P is how much I start with. So I have A equals 4,000 times E to the rate. Well, my rate is 6%. I want that as a decimal. So it's going to be 0.06 times T, which is my time. Well, time is 1. You type that all in your calculator. You can literally type it in just like that. You don't have to go step by step. You type it in, and it's going to pull out $4,247.35. And they probably rounded. I'm just looking at what the book gave me as an answer. That's probably a rounded version. Obviously, you're using money, so you want to do 2 decimal places. Last example, and you know me. I'm such a great teacher. I forgot to finish typing this, evidently, and I spelled he. So it should say find the balance after each time of amount. Well, amount of time. We're just gonna do one amount of time, and it's gonna be 5 years. So there's actually 3 problems here. We're not gonna do all 3 of them. So you deposit $25,000 in an account that pays 5% annual interest compounded continuously. So we're using PERT. Find the balance after each amount of time. We're doing 5 years. After 5 years, how much money do we have? So, oops, snap. Sorry. So we use A equals, well, P is my principal. It's what I started with. So 25,000, or 2,500, gosh. Equal times E to the rate, which is 0.05 times 5. You type that into your calculator /Desmos. You are going to get, I typed it in Desmos because I don't have a calculator, 3210.06 dollars. So $3,210.06. Okay? Now, one thing I do want to point out is that for both compounded continuously and the compounded like over an interval, monthly, daily, whatever, the A value is how much you have in your account after that time. It is not how much money you're making. So if I give you a problem, like I will probably do on a quiz, hint, hint, that if I say it's how much you make, then you have to take how much you got at the end and subtract how much you started with, because that's going to tell you how much you made. So in this case, if I take $3,210.06 and I subtract $2,500, that gives me $710.06. And that's how much money I made in that 5 years. Okay? It is not the $3,000 was not how much money I made. That's how much money was in the account at the end of it. Hopefully you guys are okay. If not, please let me know. We are device free, like I said. And I don't know if I told everyone, but I know I told 7th hour. So if you have an issue, please send me something through Google Classroom, because I get an instant notification on my phone, and I can check my phone pretty easily. Email is going to be hard to check. If it's like a big, long answer to a question, you're probably going to have to wait some time for me to answer that. The sub does have all the answer keys 7-1 through the review. So if you want to check 7-1, 7-2, 7-3, or the review, she has those answer keys for you. At this time, if you have finished taking notes, go show the sub that you have finished taking notes, and she will hand you 2 white sheets. One will be the 7-3 homework. You're going to do all of that. And then the other one is the 7-1 to 7.3 review. We are planning to take a quiz on Friday. That is not set in stone. It might not happen. I am not certain right now. It just depends on where we're at and how I feel when we get back on Friday. How I feel that you're doing. Not just like, am I mad that day? But if I feel like we're ready, we will take it. If I don't feel like we're ready, we'll wait. But that's just a heads up. So hopefully you guys have a great day and enjoy the rest of your time.